Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Shred and Soul.
I'm Shred, a.k.a. Kevin Wood.
And I'm Soul, a.k.a. Wind Hughes. Well, yesterday, having a cup of coffee in the morning, where we often talk about things that end up being an episode, we were talking about a lot of the what-ifs in life. And aliens came up, and I was sharing the time I was abducted and some of the experience I've had with visitations and aliens, and Kevin was sharing some of his experiences, and we began looking at the what if they came, what might that mean?
You know, the alien phenomenon is old, and it's as old as time. When you look at the art from the ancient times and ancient civilizations, you see pictures of spacecraft and other indications that there was technology that could at least fly. And then you see the helmets on some of the statues that look like space suits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been around for a long time, but I think in our modern world, Roswell was kind of the kickoff of what we now know as the UFO phenomenon, where it just seems to be increasing as time goes by, more and more sightings.
Well, I think that maybe Roswell was probably one of the first big events where we actually have media, like news shows and coverage, so they couldn't completely sweep it under the carpet. They were accountable because people came with videos. It was on the news. So that may have been part of, I think, why it became a change in how much we began to talk about these things.
But, you know, the thing about Roswell, too, is that the alien aspect, that they actually had a live alien and a dead alien that they cut up and dissected, as well as a fully intact spacecraft. That didn't come out until much later. I mean, that's still like bubbling to the surface little by little as time goes by.
Well, they've had a lot of people now from Roswell who worked there come forward and give testimony. In fact, there's a man named, I wrote him down, David Grush, who actually was a military whistleblower who testified, and a lot of other people testifying to Congress. But you could actually look up Roswell employee, tells all sort of thing, and Google him and find great interviews with the man who was there, part of the research and what happened.
Right. And I think that whole excuse that it's a weather balloon kind of came out of that Roswell incident, because that was like what the government said it was, just a weather balloon. And then before night is like every sighting after that was probably a weather balloon.
Well, what else could it be?
Could be a Tic Tac.
It could be a Tic Tac. What was that?
The Tic Tac incident, 2004, fighter pilots on the Nimitz aircraft carrier, they were doing some operations off the coast of Mexico, and they spotted a flying Tic Tac. It looked like a Tic Tac. If you take a Tic Tac and put it in the sky and make it a lot bigger. I mean, I think this thing was at least the same size as fighter planes, maybe a little bigger. But they witnessed this thing doing amazing aerobatics, maneuvers that current flying machines still can't do, and moving at extreme rates of speed. And then that incident actually didn't come to the surface until 2014 when the New York Times released video. And so then now, we're starting to have cooperation from the government as far as that wasn't a weather balloon. We don't know what it was.
Well, yeah, we talked about, we have cell phones now, and when the height last December, not this past 1 year, before that, the drones and the orbs in New Jersey, and we have family there, so we'd have boots on the ground testimonies, previous episodes you can watch to hear what our relatives actually said, was happening there, which was not being reported necessarily in legacy media. But, all of that happening on the East Coast, and we were able, when we had something fly over us last year, take a video of it.
Mhm.
And times have changed since we all have become, documentarians with our cameras,
Yeah.
videoing everything. We're accountable now to what we see, and so we know it's out there.
It's definitely part of popular knowledge. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, a common phrase would be like, there ain't no such creature as a flying saucer, People would scoff at the whole idea, but I think more and more people are coming to the realization that all of these sightings, and I've had sightings myself. I recall seeing in New Mexico one time a light behind a mountain. It just came to the top and went straight up vertical. I mean, it was, a classic sighting. And I've never ever seen a shooting. I've seen shooting stars, but they're always like, that, and they don't move as fast. This thing was just like, boom, straight up from behind a mountain and vanished into the night sky.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of things in the sky, but for me, it's personal because I had multiple experiences of feeling visited and also seeing one, which I've talked about in a previous episode, but I'll share again for those of you who may not have seen that one. That, there was a time when I was working in a nursing home, and a lot of people were passing and dying, and I was working with their families and the people who were, at the end of their life. And I was in deep, deep meditation in my room, totally sober. People will say, well, what were you on? Nothing. Totally sober. And in deep, deep meditation, and I felt a presence, and I suddenly saw a face. And it was the oddest thing because I could feel the presence was here. There was a being. I was sitting on the bed, a being standing behind me. But yet I saw its face in front of me. I mean, I could turn and see its face. But when it was telepathically talking to me, I could see the face in front of me. That's all I could say to describe it. And it was a profoundly wonderful and beautiful experience. And I've never seen a being that looked like this before. All I know is that this being communicated with absolute union and communion in the most beautiful way, and gave me, great wisdom as to how to work with dying people, how to make it easier, just how to be of support and help, and just shared a lot of wisdom and truth to me about the other side. And I would imagine that maybe that happened because I've been out of body into these places, so I was able to understand what this being was saying to me. Anyway, I drew a picture of this being because I was blown away at how odd it looked. Didn't look human-like, but it had a mouth, a nose, and eyes. Wrote it down, and it was my guide for working with the dying folks. So I put it on my bulletin board in my office at this facility. And a nurse came in one day and sounded a little anxious and said, "What's that?" And she was pointing to the little cutout picture I had on my bulletin board. I said, "Oh, that was someone who visited me in a vision." And she looked at me and said, "I'll be back." And I went and did some rounds, and I came back, and there was a book on my desk called Communion, which I had never read before. And there was the face of the drawing on the front of that book. And it was the face of what we might typically call a gray alien right now. Big eyes, a slit of a mouth, and barely a nose. And I was startled, and I went home and immediately read the book about other people's experience with the grays. Mm. Some of them like mine that were very beautiful, and other ones that were not beautiful at all. And so that was a really positive experience. Another time, I was going through a change in my life, and I lived in the forest, in the woods, in an A-frame with really no one very close to me. And when it was dark, it was dark. And I was just getting used to being alone in the forest night after night after night because I'd been in a relationship. And there was a 2-week period that was one of the most frightening and horrible 2-week periods of my life where I couldn't sleep, and I was totally confused because I would lie down to go to sleep and I would feel as if I was falling asleep, but I'd wake up in a different reality. And it was not your typical, falling asleep into a dream or some gray area. And every time I'd fall asleep, I'd have some very frightening experience of there being other beings in the house, or I'd been transported to another dimension where things were being done to me and it wasn't friendly. I don't even want to go into the details of that. But then there'd be layers and layers of awareness. I'd come out of that and think I was in a safe reality. And this was, all right, this is real now. I'm home. And then that wouldn't be. Something else would happen. And it would go on like this for 2 weeks where I fought falling asleep as hard as I possibly could and somehow functioned taking care of my kids and going to work and seeing clients. I was a wreck. And it was so unsettling. And then one night I was up looking down on the stairs to the bottom floor, and this odd, only way I could describe it is if it was a giant pencil, it had that shape. It was probably about the size of a boa constrictor is what it looked like to me. But imagine a pencil that was bendable. And it was coming up the stairs and turning the corner and then coming up my way. And this probe or being was coming. I have horrible anxiety right now this second just thinking about it. It came up the stairs, and when it came to me, I was transported again to a very uncomfortable place. But for 2 weeks, I couldn't keep track of what was real and what wasn't at night because I was literally taken and being screwed with. And then as quickly as it started, it stopped. Just stopped. Thank goodness, because I don't know how long I could have gone on like that. So it just stopped and never happened in that way again. That was terrifying.
And that's not even a very widely publicized encounter. None of them are. I mean, this is like incredible. And maybe we should have led with that.
Well, I said when we started, I was going to talk about my alien abduction.
That was part of it, but that's really amazing. I've never had even close to any sort of encounter like that. My friend Johnny Wood did see a craft flying over where we used to live in Taos, the Canyon Road. And he said that it was low enough that he could see in the window and see people in there who meet that same description that you just talked about.
The Greys.
Yeah, the Greys.
Yeah. So these kind of stories prompted us saying, well, the what if? What if they came? I truly believe at some point, probably not too far down the road, they will come. And you look at with what intention, and we both dive into ancient civilizations such as maybe the Anunnaki, and were they from another place, other beings, star beings as they might be called in some southwestern traditions here. These star beings, these people were here originally and genetically modified us potentially, and they were aliens, meaning they weren't from Earth. And you can see those depicted. And if that's true and they were here, and at that point you can read a number of scholars talking about this. We were depicted as what you might call a slave class in service of them because they needed certain things mined. Their planet was threatened and they needed to stabilize. And I can't even remember if they left the planet completely. But you can look up Anunnaki and look up Zachariah Sitchin. I can never say his name correctly. Writes extensively about it. So if they're coming, they're either going to be our saviors in a sense, right? Bring great awareness to us and our planet's going to change. And then we talked about, well, what would that look like? And then what if it's the Anunnaki coming back or someone like that who sees us as service? Right. Or like we would see ants.
Or maybe we're part of that matrix, like in the Matrix movie where these people are actually using us and feeding us a simulation for their own power source.
Well, so what would it mean if they come back? I mean, imagine. We're sitting there having our coffee in the morning, right? And all of a sudden, like the alien stormtroopers appear at the door. They've landed in Washington. We're not watching the news, so we didn't know. Nobody told us. And we're sitting there and they appear at the door and it's an alien takeover. And they say, grab your things or not. They just take us. off to a labor camp,
Mm-hmm.
or they take charge in everything in our life, such as like digital money, everything in the digital world, which is kind of concerning. That's something they maintain and control. So everything we do, everything we say, every choice we make is monitored. And we have to keep our stressful lives going because that frequency of energy feeds and transmit. It's like a power feeder to them. What if that's the case?
That'd be shocking, because how would you ever get out of it? How would you ever be able to realize you were in that situation?
Well, I think we'd realize we're in that situation. So what do you mean?
Well, it seemed like a mind control thing too. I mean,
But if they came and said, okay, this is happening now, here's your injection. We now are monitoring everything you do and say.
but aren't
And
they
your world
already?
is digitized. Well,
Look,
good question,
You
right?
know, how many times have you had a conversation with somebody, and then you look at your phone 5 minutes later, oh, and there's that thing you were talking
That
about.
happened this morning.
Yeah.
We were talking about I was taking a CEU class because I have to take continuing ed for my therapist license. And I managed to find one class I thought would be great and interesting. And it was herbs, botanical medication.
Mm-hmm.
It was mostly very, very dry, like the incessant pages of research,
Mm-hmm.
but interesting. And one was on saw palmetto. I read him some of the research on saw palmetto. And then 10 minutes later?
I come out of my room and say, look what's on my phone. It was on one of those alerts. And so, yeah.
Yeah, ads and promotions for saw palmetto.
We're already being scrutinized.
But we know it is. It's us.
Yeah,
right?
it is. But still.
And we may have the illusion of some choice at this point.
Where did that technology come from? I mean, I like to believe that human ingenuity is robust enough and dynamic enough to invent everything that we have in front of us. Really, I distinctly see that as a very valid possibility.
You mean that aliens had no part in the technology we have?
Yes, I can think that could be the case.
Well,
but
it could be.
I'm willing to entertain the opposite, and I do. You think about it and go, okay, well, this technology has been ballooning out of control, not out of control, by design for the last 50 years or so, and has made so many leaps and bounds, and it's profoundly changed our lives.
You're talking about AI? Computer technology?
Well, AI is coming down. AI is a new thing. I mean, and everything's changing so rapidly. Maybe it is some sort of a seed that an alien superpower controlling race has put together in order to keep us under control.
Well, it could be, and maybe those reptilian aliens are actually the government leaders. Who knows what rabbit hole you want to go on? But you look at what would it mean in your life, and I just can't. I mean, I think we treat certain animals that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a dog. You have Kimberly has a horse. And I look at that animal sometimes, and maybe it's because when we lived in Taos, the wild horses would roam free. You could see them. Remember, we saw them coming down the canyon that day. I mean, what an amazing thing to see horses in the wild and how they're meant to live. And then here in this world, whether it's a dog or a cow or an oxen or whatever the animal is, that we use them at will for our own satisfaction or labor or work. And what if that would be the relation to us?
Mm-hmm.
The what if is just, that would suck.
Yeah.
I have no desire to be somebody's
your case,
workhorse or slave.
The alien that you saw that was going to help you guide people who were dying was a kind spirit.
It was very beautiful.
Somebody who was there.
And there are a lot of people who've been hypnotized and have that same experience. In fact, they have a lot of research on this and can look at, proportions of people who had a positive experience. There are a lot of them who have similar experience like I had. And portions of people who remember being probed and cut and experimented on. There are a lot of those. And I think I've had both. I also had a time when I went and had my hair trimmed on Bainbridge. And the person who did my hair said, why did you cut the hair under your neck, like right along the occipital ridge here? I said, I didn't. She said, yeah, you did. There's a whole section about this big underneath that's only about this long.
Mm-hmm.
Someone cut your hair. And I said, Michelle, I did not cut my hair. And so there are things like that
Well,
let
didn't
me
you
know.
see when you had your neck scanned many years ago, a small
A small something on there.
something underneath your skin
Yeah.
implant?
But it wasn't an implant. I didn't know what it was. It was just a mark.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had someone tell me that I had an implant put in. So who knows? I totally feel as though when you're abducted or have these kind of visitations, which many, many people have, don't even remember, that there is some connection. I truly feel as though I'm being tracked. And not necessarily in a bad way. It's almost as if you say, oh, I know where that person lives. I keep an eye on them. Or it's an old friend. You know, that kind of feeling. They know where I am. They know what I'm doing. They may have influence over me. And then sometimes I feel that tracking or observing me, you know, what are they doing? Sometimes when I haven't been able to sleep, I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that's that dimension. What if it's the positive,
Mm-hmm.
right? What if they come and as the night on the 19th at 9:14 p.m. when I felt as if something energetically had shifted in reality,
Mm-hmm.
something had changed in my world, that the world, my reality was not going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
December 19th. And
We talked
it
about
felt positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very
Mm-hmm.
positive, the
Mm-hmm.
frequency. So what if they come and turn it up?
You know, that could be a distinct possibility. I mean, when we talk about aliens, it doesn't necessarily mean somebody who lives on a planet across the galaxy that has technology to fly at the exceeding rate of light, which is, you know, a debatable capability. Although debatable capabilities come and go.
Well, you have debatable capabilities is usually based on our sense of reality and capability.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is that maybe these, well, it's hard to say as a flying craft with amazing capabilities of aerodynamics. It's not coming from the ethereal plane, right? Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it could be, you know, they could be interdimensional. They could be coming from somewhere else, but they're here. And I think the positive, if they come and they facilitate a shift in consciousness where we all begin to perceive and understand at a higher level because that's what they perceive or understand at, you know, communicating telepathically. I've had that before with another human where I was able to actually have a conversation without our lips moving. You know, other than a telepathic sense of, oh, I know how you're feeling, a momentary thing, but we actually have a volitional conversation.
Wow.
So that's pretty amazing that that's a possibility. And I would welcome that. And I don't know if everyone else would welcome this world changing.
Well, it sounds like maybe people who are unaware are being affected by it anyway. I mean, there's also the phenomenon of children. There was in Zimbabwe, I think,
at school,
the aerial school phenomenon where 62 children saw the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Flying saucer lands, people get out with that classic alien look, communicating to these children telepathically.
Right, same communication.
They all said the same thing. They all reported, they drew the pictures, they all looked the same. So, you know, an ability to see that and to be open to it. Maybe not everybody has that. I can see how a child would. It's not dissimilar to the way that the native people in the Caribbean or West Indies, wherever, where the Spaniards were coming and discovering their islands, they were unable to see the ships because they had no reference point. They didn't see the ships until these people were already on shore with their rowboats, you know, kind of interfering with their lives. So
could be the same.
It could be the same.
Well, what do you think you would feel? How can you imagine if it is a positive transformation and potentially we are able to very quickly achieve a status where we don't have to eat because we're able, you know, be a breatharian where we can absorb the energy from the light around us, and our normal emotional and cognitive relationships change because what's most meaningful is a communion,
Yeah.
like the communion I have with that being, that there's this communion, this ecstatic communion, which we can have here, we have
Mhm.
with people, but it's this ecstatic communion
Mhm.
that satisfactions of the sensory mortal level are don't even approach it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you no longer strive to titillate yourselves
Just think.
emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
What if sex didn't mean anything to you
What if
anymore?
tasty food didn't either?
Oh, I asked you a question.
Well,
He's avoiding it.
yeah, but
What
you know,
if? What if?
hey, what if?
What if just
I'm
that
just thinking, okay,
spiritual, emotional?
what overlord? If this is a control feature, right, that we're all under control, what overlords would benefit from that? What you're talking about?
Well, I wasn't thinking this as an overlord. I was thinking it as a beautiful experience. They come down and they help us to expand and
overlord
and understand.
might be a harsh term, but okay. I'd say that if there are overlords, they're thinking, well, I hope these other angelic beings that are giving us all of this ecstasy in communion, if they fail, we're still in business, right?
I don't understand.
I'm thinking of it in terms of a possible power struggle.
You're saying what strategically, who could be manipulating the situation so these positive beings come and do this?
Precisely.
But what you said, so they'd still have control. Well, I'm not sure how. Well, that's the piece I don't understand.
Okay, so here's the deal: if you have a company that sells cigarettes, and they need you to keep buying these cigarettes, and so they put additives in the cigarettes to make them more addictive, and they market these cigarettes to make you look cool when you're smoking. If somebody comes along and enlightens the population that, hey, you know what? These things are killing you, and look at all of these chemicals they've been putting in this tobacco for all these years, and really, it's not so cool. Who benefits? It's a struggle, because the cigarette companies, they want to sell those cigarettes. But in reality, you have a force of knowing that's going to say, hey, don't do that anymore. It's not good for you.
I still don't get the alien analogy.
Well, I'm thinking that
I don't get it, do you?
I don't know.
Am I being dense here?
Well, I'm thinking aliens don't necessarily have to be from another planet, right?
Yeah.
They could be interdimensional beings that are affecting us.
Well, don't you think in many ways they are?
Yeah.
Yeah, even another planet could be interdimensional.
It still doesn't explain the tic-tac phenomenon.
The ships. The many ships that have been seen.
Like in Phoenix, where there was a giant triangle-shaped ship and thousands of people saw it. It wasn't just lights. It was a ship flying over the sea.
Well, and the many reports of military pilots that have seen them, military personnel have reported them and now testify to Congress. So what's your guess? Are we going to be visited soon, other than like the kind of visits I've had that are happening already on the collective mass planetary level?
I think we have to hit some sort of critical mass of awareness. I think probably one of the reasons why, if there is more known by officials from the government or people who know and that they're not saying anything, there's reasons, like they don't want to induce mass hysteria. They don't want to burst anybody's bubbles in some certain way. I don't know. There could be many motives for suppressing that.
Or controlling when it's released.
Mm-hmm. Or it could be, like I mentioned, not being capable of seeing it or even understanding it.
So what's your bet?
I can't really put a bet on it.
I think they're coming soon. I think they will be allowed to appear soon. They will choose to come soon. If the government wants to disclose in a serious way, it'll happen soon. I sense it. I feel it. Soon could be 5 years, soon could be 2 years, but soon. I have a strong feeling that if I live long, will see it, and you will see it in our lifetime.
Kunahara.
Yeah. So what do you think? I'd be curious. How
Let
would
us
it be
know.
for you if there was heaven on earth and suddenly the physical world didn't have the same relationship?
Yeah, and you were in a state of ecstasy just
Yeah.
by saying hello to somebody.
Yeah. How would that be? Wouldn't that be amazing?
Really?
And what about the thought of becoming an ant or a workhorse or
Yeah.
a labor force that was kind of slavery? And what would that mean?
And think about how you already might be enslaved.
We are.
We are constantly being pulled in so many directions. And
I think
it
we're
can be
enslaved by our
mind-boggling.
lifestyles.
Our lifestyles, exactly. That's what I'm
Hamsters
saying.
on a wheel creating
We're going, oh,
money for
well,
the
I need
mass
to
rich.
buy that car. I need to pay for this house. I need to do this. I need to go on a vacation. I don't need all this money to do what? And so, yeah, it's definitely food for thought, I think. And I would like to think that the aliens are here to help us and to
All right,
guide us.
I'm communicating telepathically to you. Tell me if you get it.
Ask questions in the comments.
All right, there you go. There's
Yeah,
the
let us
topic
know
of the
what
day.
you think. That's what I thought she was saying. I thought she was saying, time to wrap it up.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, well, I guess I missed something.
It was person.
Was it like revolving around the taste of food?
No. You're going to have to guess.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for being here. Click subscribe. If you don't want to do that, just add a comment or add a like.
Yeah.
It really helps. Spread the word. Check out Kevin's work for his CDs. You can find Monument on
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.
Go to malfunction.org. All the malfunction
There's new
stuff.
releases on Bandcamp.
New releases. I'm working on new material now.
Yeah.
I'm going to the studio next week.
There's new stuff up there for you.
Yeah.
Check it out.
A physical media now available on Bandcamp for the Monument CD.
Great.
Yeah. And there's more to come.
Yeah, and check out my book, Life is the Ceremony, How We Live It is the Ritual, The Journey of a Feminine Shaman. It's on Amazon in Kindle and soft hard copy.
Yeah, get one of those too.
Click, like, let us know you're there. We love your comments. Thank you so much. And we'll catch you later.
We'll see you next week.